Hello. Hope y'all are doing well. It is technically the 19th, Sunday, and I just wanted to mention a couple of things about these crazy conjunctions that have been peaking so over the weekend, and we have pretty significant energies playing out, and Algol is considered to be a demon star. If you do like a quick search, you'll find a lot of like scary mythology connected to the story of Medusa, but you have to like really dig for the background story to get more of a complete picture. And of course we're never going to get the complete picture because these descriptions were shared during patriarchal times, and we still are in patriarchal times, but the last 2,000 years have been has had the patriarchal slant. And so the fixed star Algol is known to be connected to beheadings. Like Medusa lost her head. She was decapitated. She was cursed because Athena put a curse on her, and it was because she Medusa was accused of being a temptress, like being too beautiful, and like tempting Poseidon or Neptune, and Neptune essentially forcing himself on Medusa. And when Medusa would try to tell her story, Athena did not believe her. Athena blamed instead of supporting Medusa, instead of like asking questions. She sided, I guess you could say, with Poseidon, and cursed her. And so Athena can also be seen as the energy that upholds the patriarchy instead of confronting the patriarchy, because Athena was probably looking out for herself so as to not be shamed or exiled or punished in some sort of way, because of course Poseidon, being the male figure, is bigger and more intimidating. But this kind of story plays out across so many levels in our personal lives, and we can see it playing out in the world, especially with the protests and things that are happening in Gaza. And the protest being Medusa, who is trying to stand up for what is right. Like, it is obvious that the things that are happening around the world, and that have been happening, are atrocities and need to be stopped. And that is, the protesters are confronting the authorities. And in the myth of Medusa, Poseidon is kind of like the authority figure, and then having to deal with and face like societal programming, and trying to find that balance of when to speak up, or like how to speak up. And also with the energy of Medusa, it's like it speaks to having this obsession with self-image, because you don't want to look too attractive, but you don't want to be unattractive, and you don't want to be too submissive, but you don't want to be outspoken. Like, either like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't kind of energy. And like, that's completely the like the paradox of the fixed star Algol. And it's when evil rejects good, when goodness is twisted. And a lot of these Lilith stars have the energy of hiding those parts of us that are rejected but is actually inherently good. And so being wholesome, or being beautiful, or being kind, like, it's like shining that light that is too bright, that others reject or are blinded by. And so there is the concept of how this fixed star also speaks to victims becoming the bully, and the bully becoming the victim. And so, in the case of Medusa, she was victimized, and then her head is being used as like as a weapon, you know, like because of the curse that Athena put on her. Like anybody that Medusa looks at is turned to stone. So she becomes this like horrifying looking person with snakes for hair, when she once had like beautiful blonde hair and golden hair. So with this Algol at 26 degrees Taurus, a few degrees away from Jupiter and the Sun, like Jupiter expands, and it is the bringer of blessings. So there is like a silver lining in this sort of energy. The Sun amplifies and reveals, and so we have to also take into consideration the potential energies that can play out with this conjunction. And we can, you know, it's kind of impossible to ignore with everything going on. And if you have something at 26 degrees or around 26 degrees Taurus, then you've probably experienced this throughout your life. And it can be like the like dimming of your light. That could be that kind of feeling. And it's like a self-protection kind of defense mechanism, where, you know, you kind of you know, I guess it's in a way it's manipulation, because you're not being your true self, but based on past experience, the behavior that you choose to express, you learn to kind of tweak so that you're not shamed, and you're not, you know, like otherwise there's like that feeling of guilt where, you know, like you downplay like your assets. And I mean, even like getting dressed, you know, like I don't personally like to wear like if I were in a car, it'd be a different story. Like I can like at the moment, I can like, you know, just jump in my car and go from my car to wherever I'm going. But like walking the streets, you know, like I prefer to have my ass covered, like, you know, with a jacket, long sweater, like, you know, something that does not show off my ass, because I don't want that attention. And part of like one of the interpretations of Medusa being cursed by Athena, like one of, you know, like Athena's intentions was to prevent any unwelcomed male attention. Like it was like it wasn't a punishment, it was more of a safeguard. So that's one interpretation of Athena's curse on Medusa, which is interesting, because that definitely, I'm sure a lot of us, we can relate to having to resort to like downplaying our assets in order to protect ourselves. And like that's probably going to be a story that's going to be ongoing for how many, who knows how many years, who knows how many more years. I mean, women only got the right to read and write 400 years ago. You know, like 400 years ago really is not that long ago, you know, especially in comparison to the rights of men. So, I mean, we have a long way to go, but I feel like we are at the turning point where things are beginning to shift when it comes to that level of awareness and acknowledgement, and doing something about it. Like, this is the point where the shifts that are happening are in our favor. And so, yeah, that's the Sun Jupiter conjunction. And yes, of course, like there's, you know, the Sun and Jupiter come together every year, you know. So in the sign of Taurus, it doesn't, you know, happen that often, every 12 years or so. We can't ignore the energies that that this conjunction also is connected to, which is Algol. And so we just have to be aware of the potential, I hesitate to use the word backlashes, but like there's going to be that feeling of trauma. You know, like trauma is definitely tied into this energy. And the fact that, let's see, Mars and the North Node, in Aries at 14 degrees and 56 minutes. Mars is, you know, like I said, the energy of will, ambition, goals, like really going for it, also aggression, combativeness, and it's conjunct the North Node, the, you know, point of destiny, like collectively, and it's the energy of honest purpose, like instinctive effort in the direction of our soul's purpose. Oh, and like the 14 degrees is connected to Taurus themes, again, of self-worth, finances, material possessions, relationships, values, love, aesthetic. And Uranus is the planet that breaks away from the status quo, and it's through traumatic events that compel Uranus to break away. It's like the liberating energy that can no longer stay stagnant. And so with Venus and Uranus meeting up in the sign of Taurus, this can like literally be like physical release, like a letting go or a dismantling of a relationship, or like it could be thinking outside of the box and redoing, you know, your hair or makeup, or your choice of style. Could be your, you know, your home settings. Could be anything visually. It could be also your taste in like culinary experiences. Maybe you try a different cuisine. You know, like could be any kind of anything related to Venus, which is taste, touch, sight, smell, feel. So yeah, I consider it to be an awakening to self-romance, and so it could be romanticizing your life and like finding ways to like do yourself up in some kind of way. And again, Aquarius is, you know, very independent, and like Taurus as well is very self-reliant. So if you're like, you know, really practicing those self-love, you know, taking yourself out on a date, and that can be like a regular thing, you know, like realizing that you don't have to wait for someone else to take you out, or like, you know, treat yourself to the dessert at the end of the meal, you know, like just because you know, someone's not interested in dessert doesn't mean you can't have it. And that is another thing with Jupiter in the sign of Taurus, especially at the later degrees. Like this is the anoretic degree where we can kind of like go all out, and in the sign of Taurus it's like a self-indulgent kind of energy. So could look like overspending, indulging, like really treating yourself because you know, like don't want to deny yourself these luxuries or these things that you deserve, you know, like there is a letting go of this scarcity mentality, and so we can see or experience ourselves really treating ourselves, but we just have to kind of like, you know, keep in mind what the limits are, I guess you could say. Like Saturn is in Pisces, I believe it's at 18 degrees, yeah, 18 degrees right now, so there is a cooperative aspect, so there's like a limitation at the same time, like making sure that the decisions that we are making is aligned with like the higher wisdoms of Pisces. Like is it spiritually sound, you know, is it, you know, is whatever we are consuming or purchasing, is it produced in, you know, like a humane, you know, way? Is it a humane production? Yeah, there's a lot of things unfolding, and I know we still have the full moon in Sagittarius on the 23rd, but, and not to jump too far ahead, but just to kind of like give a broad picture of what is unfolding, is like, I just wanted to mention how Mars is going to meet up with Chiron on the 30th, and so that's going to be at 22 degrees in Aries. So we can look out for some elevated displays of wounding, on and around the 30th of May, and then on the 31st, Mercury will be meeting up with Uranus at 24 degrees in Taurus, and so there can be some unexpected conversations, like changing of decisions, and information that can reveal a lot of mind-blowing information. And then it's only a few degrees away from Algol at 26 degrees Taurus, and on June 1st, Mercury will be at 26 degrees Taurus. And the same day, Jupiter will be in Gemini, trining Pluto in Aquarius, and the moon will have just moved into Aries, and so that'll be a minor grand trine, and so that is a very supportive energy of like these new things that we are becoming aware of, these new pieces of information, insight that is going to change our collective empowerment. And with the moon in Aries during this time as well, there's going to be like a feeling of enthusiasm. Like there's going to be an excitement around these events that are unfolding around the end of May, beginning of June. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention some of those things. And there can be, with this conjunction with Jupiter, the Sun, and Algol, which is related to the Medusa myth, there can be that feeling of wanting to retreat and like kind of self-protect. Like there's a feeling of solitude because of this. Like it could be like overwhelm. We're wanting to. We're all in this like liminal phase right now, like unsure of what is going to make us feel ashamed. Like we're all trying to avoid feelings of guilt or shame, and it's been programmed in us to, like if we're not working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, then we're being lazy, or like all these outdated paradigms are starting to crumble. And so we're at this phase where like we're pulling away from that, but like a lot of people are still in that, and so we're being faced with the what do you call it, the residual judgments from that kind of lifestyle. And so it's like this liminal space that we're all trying to navigate, and solitude can do us a lot of good. Like we have to come back to ourselves in order to really figure out what we align with. And like solitude is nothing to be ashamed about. And on the 26th, Black Moon Lilith is going to oppose Neptune, and there can be the urge to isolate in order to avoid those feelings of guilt and shame. But then, like Black Moon Lilith is going to be in Virgo, so there's going to be this kind of like tug of war, push and pull to be of service and wanting to also isolate. And so it's learning how to kind of strike a balance between that, but also integrate, like somehow figure out ways to protect your energy and yeah, be of service. And this can also be related to our health as well, since Virgo is connected to our health. And taking the, putting in the efforts to really make sure that we are practicing healthy habits, and not giving into escapism. So, yeah, I hope all that made sense. I hope it was helpful. I know Algol can be a very like delicate myth to untangle. But if you have planets or placements at this point, then you're likely to relate to this pretty strongly, because you've probably experienced these kind of energies in your lifetime. So there is another astrologer. I think he's based in Germany. His YouTube is just called George. But I think if you look up, George astrology, he'll come up. You have to like kind of, scroll a little bit. But he has really enlightening talks about these kind of placements, and I believe he said something about how he practices like family therapy and like family patterns, and so it's like very fascinating. Just like check it out. I'll link the video on Algol below, because I mean he has a lot more I guess eloquent ways of describing these energies. And yeah, shout out to George. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful and it made sense. Thank you again always for listening, and stay, as always, grounded. As always, stay centered, stay grounded, stay hydrated, and yeah, hope to see you in the next one. Okay, take care.